Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another training session. Today, we're going to be covering our 30-minute quick start, which is just going over some basics and some where are things located discussions. But where we actually want to go ahead and start is actually with our top right icons, which, as you might have guessed from that name, is in the top right-hand corner of the CRM. So these 5 icons are going to stick with you. Even if you were to hop from the Today page on over to like the Seminars page, you're still going to see these top 5 icons. They'll come and go with you. So the very first one that you have is actually the little plus sign looking icon. That's your quick add option. This is where you can come in here and add a new activity or add a new contact. Maybe you need to upload a new document. Maybe there's a discussion that just happened with a client that we need to add in there. That's going to be where our notes come into play. Maybe we have a new seminar that we need to prepare, or maybe there's a new opportunity that we just landed. The last one you have on this quick add option is attaching a workflow. So all of these are going to be available for you with this quick add button. Again, even if you're on another page in the CRM, that option's always going to be there for you. To just the right of that is our integrations icon, kind of little 3-pronged looking icon here. This is actually what's going to tell you what integrations you actually have available within your database. So if you're looking through here and you're like, God, I feel like I'm missing something, chances are high it might not just be turned on. We might need to just enable it. And that's actually where you're going to come in and find that manager integrations list. But this is always a great helpful way to start off to see, hey, what is currently available for me? To just the right of that particular icon kind of looks like a little kid asking to be picked up or a really excited person. That's actually our recently viewed icon. And by clicking on this little guy, this is where we're actually going to see the last 12 records that we've been in. So if you've just been on like Clark Kent's page here and I'm like, whoops, I forgot I need to do something with him, I can always come back in here and click this contact page here, get redirected to his contact page. You can always, of course, come up and search by the first name here. You can always say, okay, Clark, I can come up here. But this is just saving you those few extra clicks by clicking on that little guy in the corner and then picking on that recently viewed icon. You'll also have the option in this recently viewed section to see quick lists and tag groups, which we'll cover quick lists a little bit later when we talk about our advanced search section. But again, if it's something that you're doing frequently, you can actually pull it up from this recently viewed, immediately get redirected to that page and get that information we're looking for. To the right of our little recently viewed icon, we've got the little bell looking icon, and that's actually our alerts. So up here, it looks like we actually have a number up here. This is the numbers that we have available for a notification. And it's going to come in here and say, oh, look, you got some things you got to get done. It looks like at 3 p.m., 12:45, we've had these particular activities. So it's just notifying us that, hey, your life is busy today. You've got some things on your calendar. You can always come over and dismiss individually or dismiss all, but you have either option to do that from there. To the right of our little alerts icon is our universal sign for I am lost, I have no clue where to go type of thing. That's our question mark, that's our help icon. Over in here you have the option of contacting us. It's going to have that information in here. The Google form, so if you're ever curious to see how other users in the databases are using particular fields or sections, this is your spot to just come in here and go, hey, what are you doing? How's it working for you? Right below that is our help desk. If you ever have a specific topic, so maybe you wanted to learn more about broadcast email, or maybe you wanted to learn how to incorporate mail merges with that, this is your spot to come in here. You can always access recorded webinars, particular topics. This is your one-stop shop to get a little bit more information. Coming down here, another helpful one, submitting a helpful ticket here. If there's anything where you're like, gosh, this just isn't working for me, or if you're anything like us, maybe you don't even pick up the phone to order pizza anymore, this is where you can actually come in here and just say, hey, I've got a quick question or I need help, and this is going to come directly on over to our support team. Another helpful one down here are release notes. If you're ever curious to say, hey, has this always been this way, or am I losing my mind type of thing, this is where that option is going to come in here and say, hey, here's the newest and greatest things that we have within the Redtail CRM. So that's another great option that you can have in here. But definitely all of these are available for every single user that you have just by clicking on that question mark in that top right corner. So coming just a little bit further even is our name in the corner here. This, of course, is going to vary based on whoever you're actually logged in as and how you are presented in there. But right by clicking on this, we actually have this option of preferences. So I went ahead and I clicked on that name and then preferences. And there's some great things that we recommend in terms of starting out when you're newer to the system, or at least new logging in to the system. And I always recommend at least starting out with changing your time zone. So we're based over here on the West Coast, so we have our set to Pacific time. But if you're over in New York, Boston, Florida, something over there like that, you're obviously going to want to adapt it so that way you fall in the time zone that you're in. So definitely start off with that. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure when you go to your calendar and you're always off on time. So definitely adjusting it there. You can also see at the top here, you have different default options in here. So if you'd rather start off maybe with the calendar as your today page instead of the today page, you have that option for you. Same with session timeout. So instead of having to log back in every 15 minutes, you can change it to an all day. So that way you're in here and you're like, okay, I'm going to knock out everything that I can, see what's going on, adjust everyone that we can. This is your option to do that. Below that, you also have an activity management. So in here, we've got those default all-day events. So if you're commonly coming up, adding activities, and they're always like, hey, it just needs to happen at some time during a day, you have that availability to default it so that way you don't have to check that box every day. You can also leave it as no, though, so that way you can specify that time frame automatically. Right below that, you also have an activity type and activity category that you default. So if you find that you're commonly booking the same types and categories for activity, it's just more prevalent in your life, you can actually set those defaults so it just saves you a few extra clicks. Same with that right below. If you've got a certain duration that you find as most common, you can also adjust that for you here. Coming down below that, kind of the same guidelines as those activities is with our calendar management. So we can come in here and set our defaults so that way if there's a specific way we like to view our calendar, or maybe even start our specific week that way, we can actually adjust the calendar to fit how we personally like to look at that. But coming down where I really want to draw attention is that we've got these, quite a few actually, default to show options, default to show all day, completed, client review, seminar. These are all items that we can set as defaults for our activities. So that way when we actually put or click on our calendar, we can see things that we like all-day activities by default showing. Now, of course, these are just your defaults. So you can always, when you're looking at the calendar, which again, I'll go over just a little bit later, you can always adjust it. So that way, if I don't want to see workflow tasks that day, I don't have to come back here and change it to no every single time. I can adjust it on the calendar for just that moment. But this is most likely considering in your, hey, on a normal everyday occurrence, I don't want to have to adjust this every time. This is those default options that you're going to want to pick. Coming down below that, you've got a couple more options in here. How you'd like to view specific things within the contact record, that's where you're actually going to come in here to have those set up. Same kind of concept coming on down here for notifications. Maybe you like to receive an email notification every single time a new workflow has been uploaded or been completed, or maybe you want to get a notification every time an activity has been completed. This is your section to come in here and change that to a yes or no, depending again on your personal preference. And I do want to clarify that here, that everything that is set up within the preference section, again, your name and then this preference here, these are all user specific. So I'm logged in here as Tucker, but maybe my coworker's logging in as hers. If she has it where this is set up as no, it's not going to change that. This is, again, is going to be user specific. So it's going to depend on how you as an individual want to receive these notifications, how you like to view your calendar. It really is going to be tailored to your liking. The last thing I wanted to kind of go over under that notification section, though, specifically, you also have the option to change the duration of that notification. So that way, if you wanted to get it before, you have that ability to change that. Similarly, if you like getting a sound, maybe you're just so in tuned into work, and if you don't have something alerts you, you can completely skip over it. that's where you can actually come in here and change it so that way it's just a ping. Or because we do like dogs here at Red Tail, we also have the option of a large or small dog bark. So you could definitely pick those different barking sounds. Just always keep that in mind that this is where you're going to come to set those specifics. Coming down here, something that's also pretty helpful in terms of the Today page itself. If you've got some specifics that you'd rather have it as the reminder defaulting to the client review, or maybe for the birthday instead, you can actually come in here and adjust that. Similarly, maybe you want to know 45 days in advance versus just the 15 days. You can again adjust that to how you personally would like to see that. So you have those new options in here for the reminders on the dashboard specifically, so that way you can really get, hey, you know what, I don't want to have to look 180 days out, but maybe my coworker does. Maybe that's how they like to view things. So this is something that you can also set up for you yourself. Coming on down here, the next big item I want to focus on is actually emails. So if you ever have the desire to send some broadcast emails, you're like, I just don't even know where to begin, here's a good spot actually. So in our preferences, we have this email section. We can pick whether we want it internal or external. We can pick how we would like our name displayed in the email itself. We can also attach an email signature that has icons and embedded links by picking the appropriate icons up here. But what's most important about this, it's really going to help it work, is those SMTP servers. So you do need to make sure that you have your specific SMTP server name and server port attached in here for this to work correctly. Similarly, you do need to make sure that your username and password is put in here. So as long as you've got this information up here, putting all these good details up here is really what's going to make that particular broadcast email work. But if you don't set up this section here, you're going to get a big old red banner that's giving you an error saying, no, it's not going to happen. So just make sure you come back up here and save this section in. Coming below that, we also have reports. So if there is specific reports that you do end up running quite frequently, and instead of having to type the disclosure statement almost every single time, you can actually save that in here. So that way you have that displayed every single time. And similarly, you can always have that checkbox of printing on a separate page if, again, that's how you'd want that to come out. Below that, you also have miscellaneous, which is actually the first options covering specific market watch list. It is asking for the specific symbols that you can put in there. That way it is going to be more tailored to you. And then right below that is we have our bulk operation. So if there is something that has to be done for multiple contacts, this is what's going to actually distinguish, hey, how many contacts am I going to hit before it's going to need to run in the background? That's what this is actually asking for. So I do highly recommend putting it in a bigger number. Otherwise, if you have it as one contact, that's almost everything that you're going to do that's going to run in the background. If you switch it to something like this, it's going to be a little less frequent for you. So that's kind of the rundown in terms of preferences. Again, the one thing to always keep in mind, it is going to be user specific. So don't feel like, hey, if I set it this way, is someone next door going to be super mad with me? No, this is all revolving around how you personally like your Redtail CRM to be set up. Now I'm going to kind of shift gears just a little bit here, because similar to our top right icons, you also have this left menu navigation that's over here. These are always going to stay over here on this corner for you to come over here and pick this different option. So if you're like, hey, I do want to look at my calendar, see what I have, this is your option to come in here and, hey, there's those different options that we have set in. Similar to what I was saying earlier though, maybe I don't want to review like workflow tasks today. That's where that actions button is going to come in. At the top here, we have it. We can click on here and just hide those particular workflow tasks for today. So the one thing to keep in mind is that this is just going to be a temporary option, meaning if I come off this page and then come on right back, I should actually be able to see those workflow tasks again. There they are. Because again, this is just a temporary option. If you are trying to get it so that way they are permanently hidden, that's where that preferences come into play to change those different default options. But if you're kind of like me, where you're like, okay, I just need to focus on specific things, then you might want to change these upon occasion just to get that moment glance of what you're looking for. Same kind of concept coming over here. Maybe there's a specific user that you need to look at. You can just come on over here, click those particular people, and that way they're the only calendars displayed. If you pick no one, by default, it's going to be all users. You're going to run into that same exact methodology with all types and categories. If nothing is clicked by default, everything is technically clicked then. So if there is specifics, just go on through it, highlight the things that you need, and it's going to be available for you to see at that moment in particular. Over here on the right-hand side, you also can see maybe you're more of a day person. You can definitely change it so it's just a day, if it's just a week, or even a month out. So this one can be a little crazy if you've got a lot on your calendar, but I know this is a preference for some people that you can always come over here and just change that particular view for that section. I'm actually going to kind of hop back again for a little. So again, you can always come over here to click those specific topics or specific sections. But I'm actually going to come on back to our Today page, because this to me is an easy, quick glance to say, hey, what's going on in my life? So on this Today page, we're actually going to start off here. We have this things to do today. So this is literally those calendar or those activities that you have and that you have to get completed. So this is just going to show you. So right now we've got one in here. You can have quite a few though, so you can definitely get quite a list going. You can always come over here. You have these different options of editing, completing, or maybe even rescheduling. Maybe something just didn't happen the way we thought it would. So you have those different options for, again, this is your calendar activities. Below that though, we've got our workflow tasks to do today. So if you have any particular workflows that are open, and then you have those specific tasks that are assigned to you, you're going to see that in here down here as options that you have if it falls on today. If it's anything that's not today, maybe it's past due and we just didn't get to it, or it's upcoming, you're actually going to see those specific tasks in the right over here. So we have 10 active workflow tasks. Again, that number is going to vary based upon what you have assigned. Coming below that, we have those reminders coming up on option 1 on where to see them. So anything as far as birthdays that are for today or reviews, you're going to see that option down here with our notices. But you can also come up here and pick the reminders right here or on over here in this corner. And it's also going to show you those reminders again based on how we had those preferences set up, showing, hey, here's all of our birthdays coming up, here's those different client reviews. And something that is kind of newer for the system here is you actually have a countdown to say, hey, in just a couple of days, you really need to reach out to them type of thing. So it's a kind of helpful tool to keep that really fresh in our minds to say, hey, here's what's recently been happening, or here's what's coming up. You can always get back to the Today page by one of two ways. You can either come over here and click the Today button here or the Today button here. So either of these two Today buttons will bring you back to the Today. You can also get back to your home page by clicking on this little icon up here in the top. It's going to refresh and bring you back. Of course, this could always vary just based on how you have your preferences set up, but no matter what, clicking on this Today page, clicking on this Today page will bring you back here. Which also brings me to the next kind of section I want to focus in on. Maybe you have some contact breakdown that you want to take a notice of. This is actually going to give you kind of those graphs, those little pie charts that we have here to give you that breakdown of saying, hey, these are all your active clients, these are all your businesses or prospects, or even how you have your particular category set up for those contacts. You can see those from these different sections. But what I really wanted to point out, if you don't actually set up those different statuses, these aren't exactly helpful on giving you that clear shot of, hey, here's all my active clients. So anything that we have as far as like statuses and source and categories, that is all something that we can completely customize in the back portion of our database as long as we are an admin. So where we can go though to make those changes, again, if we pick our name in the top right-hand corner, come on down to manage your account this time though. So just a little bit further, again, manage your account. You're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. Now, if you are an admin, you're going to see this section right here that says admins only. Yay, that means you have access to make those status and category changes. And where you're going to go with that is manage database list. So anything that you actually see on this right-hand side under this manage list, these are all sections that are completely customizable within the CRM. So if there is a status, you're brand new, you just logged in, by default, you're really only going to have this one option if not specified. I highly recommend coming in here and adding some new ones just by clicking this blue button at the top, typing in that new status that you need, click Add Contact Status, and it's immediately available for you to use. So this is a great way for you to segment your contacts out so that way you know, hey, who's an active client versus a prospect? Or maybe who's the business record, or who's the business versus an inactive client type of thing. So you have those different options for statuses. And similarly, maybe you want to be able to organize those active clients just a little bit further with this categories option of A, AA, or AAA. I know another common one is kind of matching up to those platinum, gold, and silvers. So you have a different sort of ways, whatever works for you. This is your option to, again, organize those contacts just a little bit further. But everything that you actually see on this right-hand side is completely customizable. So I do highly recommend kind of getting the whole office together, creating a list to see what we can do to add in here to, again, make our lives a little bit easier just by organizing our contacts and our data just with a little bit more of our unique touch. But if you've logged in, you've come up to your name, manage your account, you're like, yes, I'm ready to go, I want to add those contacts, but you come down and you actually only see manage files, you're not an admin. You can actually get that changed. Usually whoever actually does have admin only, usually just the database owner, that's usually your go-to for sure. But anyone who does have this admins only section, you can actually come on down to manage database users and teams. And in here, it's going to give you that list of those contacts or those users that you currently have. So if there's anyone that you're like, okay, they're just temporary, or maybe I know that they plan on leaving, this is where you can actually come up in here and disable a user. But more importantly, if you come over here to access and you see that there's not an admin and they should have that option, you can always come over here, edit user info, and have that different admin option changed for you. So definitely a great way to always come back here, update those new employees that we might have. And similarly, if you have anyone who's maybe like a temporary, maybe you've got an intern that comes in quite frequently, they come and go as school comes and goes type of thing. You can always come in here, disable the user, but you can always come to the disabled list and see that, oh, maybe, you know what, I need to actually re-enable that person. So you always have that option versus coming back in here, creating a new contact and going through the whole spiel again. You actually can just kind of toggle back and forth. That's an option. Now, if they are not a user and you need to add them, of course, you can always come over here, click add, and add a new user. Another thing that's actually kind of unique is this existing user. If you have someone who's already a Redtail user, has a username, but they need access to your particular database, you can actually put that username in here so that way they can be within their one system they're already in, but also come in here with your permission, of course, to come into this database as well. So you've got that option just in case that is something that is necessary for you and your team. Now, we've gone over quite a bit, but the most important, that's actually adding a contact. And that's actually, of course, going to be found within our Quick Add button. And like I said earlier, if I'm on another page, I can still toggle up here to help kind of get me going. So if we needed to add in a new individual contact, pick that Quick Add button, pick that contact option, and then it's going to ask for that type. So in here, I'm not going to go into too much detail. For the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is where you're going to be able to come in here, add that new contact, fill out the employer name, and then if they're married, also fill out that information. You can easily link the spouses together with this family name option here. So if you fill out this one here, it's going to have them automatically connected right there. Coming below that, we also have our addresses, phone numbers, emails, URLs, all that important contact detail information. But what's most important is that we want to make sure that this is actually checked off. We do want to make sure that we have a primary address, a primary phone number, a primary email on file. That way, when we do try to send out maybe a broadcast email or create labels type of thing, that's actually what it's relying on, is that primary field connected with that particular email, phone number, or address. So just make sure that if you're inserting this information, pretty much just ignore this, leave it checked off. We need that type of thing. Coming below that, actually come back up, your contact details. This is where you can actually specify for that specific contact, whether they're a client or a prospect. Again, this list is something that we just updated within the managed database list, so that way you can definitely organize that contact how you see fit. So this is where you're going to see those unique categorization coming into play for those specific contacts. Coming down below that, you can also pick some keywords and tag groups. So it's just another layer of organizing maybe services that are provided, or maybe you have a newsletter you want to send out. These are helpful tools that you have that will also be found on the contact page. But coming at the bottom here, one last thing I want to discuss when adding a new contact is actually this ability to set permissions. So maybe you have a new contact that needs to be added and only certain people should see them. This is actually where you can come in here and make it so that way if only, the Chicago office should see this team, that's when you can pick Chicago office if you have that as that permission setting. So you definitely can tailor it so that way only that is visible for them. Now, if you've added the contact, but you want to kind of see where all this information gets inputted, that's where we're going to hop on over into a contact record. So I'm actually going to use that recently viewed icon. I'm actually going to go ahead and pick up Clark Kent here, so good old Superman, and we'll be brought to his page. So if we did fill out, hey, he's the reporter at the Daily Planet, so that's his employer. And we also have his spouse, Lois Lane, and they're connected with that family. So that's where that information's in here. Now, if something changes in here, you can actually come on over here to the right, click on the little icon that looks like a little bust with a pencil. That's where we're going to click on that Edit Basic Information. Maybe he has a new job title, or maybe he switched employers. This is where you're going to come and actually change that particular information. To just the right of that is the contact card, which we get this frequently is, hey, the contact card's right here, and it's also right here. Why is that? That seems a little monotonous type of thing. Now, where this is actually helpful is that maybe I'm on the activities page, or maybe I'm on the Know Your Client page. These icons actually stick with you. So it's kind of similar to our top 5 icons in the top, but different for the actual contact level. This is where we can come over and say, hey, you know what? I'm looking at the activities. It's been a while since I talked to him. Let me go ahead, give him a call. I can pick up that contact, see that cell phone, and give him a jingle right then and there. So that's why we kind of have those, is just saying, hey, if you're on another page, it's easy to click it from here versus coming back here and going, all right, let's look for it type of thing. To the right of that is our important information. I kind of consider this the catch-all text field, because you could, in open text, you can put literally anything that you might need in here, but this is kind of those helpful, hey, you're about to give them a call, what's some things that you want to keep in mind? This is that good spot to put that information. So we might have kind of little internal conversations of like, hey, looks like Superman, but he wears glasses. And Superman doesn't wear glasses, so they can't be the same person, obviously. This is where you can kind of put that information. Or maybe you have got clients who they go by a specific name, and if you answer, or if you call them that other name that they don't go by, they might get a little frustrated. It's always best to put that information here. Similarly, maybe they've got some family changes that we need to keep in mind. That's where it's always a good spot for us to always just kind of pop in here, get a quick look, because again, this is an open text, so you can put whatever you really need to put in here. But coming on down, contact card itself, again, up here or right on down here if we're on this page. This is where we're going to see all of those contact information, whether it's primary or not. So maybe they have a secondary home. You definitely can add in those other addresses or other phone numbers. So that way you have that on file. And then coming on down further, we've got those contact details. So that's where we're going to see those statuses and categories get kind of placed in for the individual contact. Same with, it's always helpful to make sure that we put in here kind of those other details that we have associated with that particular client. And then, of course, coming on down further, that's where we're going to see those keywords and tag groups lumped in. So if we did want to keep track of, hey, who's everyone that has life insurance, this is where we're going to want to put that information, because again, we can actually search off of that. Similar kind of concept to help organize and get to know our contacts is actually our user-defined fields. These are all sections within the CRM itself. Again, that's in the managed database list. That's going to be more tailored to you. So that way, if you wanted to keep track of their drink preferences of Coca-Cola, maybe they're not a Pepsi person, we need to track that. Or maybe we want to keep track of their favorite restaurant, so that way if they've been a client with us for so long, we reward them with a gift card to their favorite restaurant. We've got a very American boy here, so Denny's is the way to go for Clark Kent here. So this is, again, these are all very unique to you and how you want to keep track of those kind of those little client details that are just easy for us to search and get a good detailed list on. Again, you've got important information. So this information is actually the same that you're going to see up here. So just another spot for you to look at if you don't like to look up here. And then financials and miscellaneous client information. These are preset sections in here that we just kind of fill in the blank. So these are also helpful ways to just really add in as much detail for our contacts as physically possible. Now, I did briefly mention that, hey, maybe I wanted to keep track of all those life insurance clients. You can actually search off of keywords. You can search off of statuses, categories, sources. And how you're going to want to do that is actually coming on over to contacts on our left side here and coming on up to our advanced search. So in here, we're going to get a couple blank boxes. And in here, this is where we're going to want to be a little bit more specific. So if it's, hey, I want to know all of my contacts who have a certain status. So we'll come in here, contact status equal to active client. Maybe that's all I wanted to know. I can click that run and get that list of contacts. I get 312 records, but maybe I want to be a little bit more specific. Maybe I want to know those contacts who are specifically a AA. That's when I can come on over here to the right, click that and option, come on down to contact, and again, kind of pre-fill what I'm looking for. Contact category equal to AA, and then run that list. So again, I'll come down to 134 records. But maybe I don't care so much about category. Maybe I specifically want those active clients with a specific keyword. You can do the same kind of concept, come on over to and, contact keywords. Keyword is the only option, equal to, and then we'll find that life insurance. And again, we'll click that run. So you have those different options that you can do for those searches, and you're going to get those list of contacts that meet that specific criteria. If this is something that you search frequently, I highly encourage actually saving this as an actual quick list. So this is going to save the search parameters at the top here, not the list itself. Basically what I just mean by that is that, hey, maybe they switched from status of active client to deceased. Maybe they passed away. If that's the case, I no longer need them on this list. They will actually fall off of that particular list. So it'll go from 44 records to 43. Again, this list is generated based off of a particular settings up here that are being met. So that's just kind of what that quick list is actually searching for. So again, if this is something where like, okay, I need to run this every single day type of thing, highly recommend saving that. You can always pull up that quick list from the top here, or again, you can always pull it up by our recently viewed icon and then clicking on over to the quick list that we're looking for. Now to just kind of wrap it up here, because I know I presented quite a bit of information, just always keep in mind if there's a specific topic or just you're a little lost, never be hesitant to just come on up and click that question mark and come on over to our help desk. We have quite a bit of information that you can actually search for in here. You can always come to a specific topic, or you can always search on up here. So if it is something that is like mail merge, I can actually come on up here, click that mail merge option, and it's going to give me all of those results that match up to it. So that's always a great option if you're just really not sure where to begin. Or if you would prefer to speak with us, you can always reach out to our support team and cover those specific questions that you might have. I want to thank you again for joining me on this 30-minute quick start. I appreciate you guys taking the time and listening in. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.